You are paying around $600 a year for something that falls out of the air every single morning for free. And for most of human history, nobody paid a dime for it. Not your grandfather, not the ancient Greeks, not the Berber farmers in Morocco who live on the edge of the Sahara. They all collected water from the air itself using nothing more than mesh, rope, and gravity. No pump, no bill, no permission required. In a moment, I am going to show you exactly how they did it, why it works, and how you can build a functioning water collection system for your yard this weekend for somewhere around $17 in hardware store materials. I'm also going to share something at the end of this video that I have genuinely never seen mentioned in any mainstream guide or home improvement article, a source of free water already sitting at your house right now, draining away into nothing every single day while you pay the utility company for the same thing. Stay with me to the end, because this last piece of information comes from a 1912 experiment documented in the Crimean archives. A Russian engineer who accidentally proved something ancient civilizations had understood for 2,000 years. Most people who find that document stop reading before they see what it means. For the modern American homeowner, I'm going to show you exactly what it means. Let me start at the beginning. In the year 1900, a Russian forest engineer named Friedrich Siebold was clearing land near the ancient Greek city of Theodosia on the Crimean Peninsula when he found 13 enormous piles of stones. Each pile was roughly 30 feet tall and covered nearly 10,000 square feet of ground. Scattered around them were fragments of clay pipe, 3 inches in diameter, that had clearly carried water somewhere. Siebold spent the next decade studying those stone piles, and then he built one of his own. By 1912, his stone condenser was producing up to 360 liters of water every single day in a region that barely receives any rain. Not from a well, not from a river, from the air. What Siebold had stumbled onto was the same principle that ancient farmers in Israel's Negev Desert had understood centuries earlier. Low circular stone walls built around plants specifically to collect moisture from condensation. The same principle that Inca communities in Peru and Chile had been applying for generations, using natural grass and leaf arrangements to trap the morning mist coming off the Pacific. The same principle that the Atacama Desert, literally one of the driest places on Earth, has been using to sustain communities of over 1 million people who could not survive on rainfall alone. The physics behind this is not complicated. Warm air carries water vapor. When that air hits a surface cooler than its dew point, a stone, a blade of grass, a mesh net, anything, that vapor condenses into liquid water. The ancient engineers understood this intuitively. They did not call it atmospheric moisture harvesting. They called it survival. And the technique worked so consistently across so many different cultures and climates that you have to ask yourself a serious question: why is the first time you are hearing about this on YouTube? Here is one answer worth considering. The American residential water utility industry collects over $100 billion a year in household water payments. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is a line item in publicly available utility revenue reports. Now ask yourself, what happens to that revenue stream if 20 million American homeowners start collecting a meaningful portion of their water use from the air, the rain, and the techniques I am about to show you? The answer explains why you have never seen a single television advertisement, home improvement show, or government pamphlet explaining how a $17 mesh net can produce up to 25 gallons of water on a foggy morning. The water companies are not suppressing ancient knowledge with secret agents. They do not have to. They simply do not fund research into methods that make them unnecessary. And the mainstream media runs on advertising dollars from the same utilities and packaged water brands that need you believing the tap is the only option. The knowledge did not disappear, it just became invisible. Here is how the technique actually works in practice, because this is where it gets simple enough to do this weekend. The FogNet system, sometimes called an atrapaniebla, which is Spanish for fog catcher, is essentially a large vertical mesh screen stretched between two poles with a collection trough running along the bottom edge. When humid air or fog passes through the mesh, the tiny water droplets, which are too light to fall as rain, cling to the fibers. As more and more droplets cluster together on the same strand of mesh, they grow heavy enough to slide down to the trough below. Gravity does the rest. There is no motor. There is no electricity. There is no maintenance beyond rinsing the mesh once in a while. The mesh material matters. Research from California State University, Monterey Bay, and FogQuest, the Canadian nonprofit that has built fog collection systems in 25 countries, confirms that a polypropylene or polyethylene shade cloth, the kind sold at any farm supply or hardware store, is nearly ideal for this purpose. The pore size should be in the range of 30 to 40% open area. Too fine, and fog passes through it. Too coarse, and droplets fall off before they collect. The sweet spot is the same material sold as 40% shade cloth for garden beds, typically available for under $1 a square foot. A 3-foot by 5-foot panel, the exact size researchers at FogQuest calculated could provide enough water for one person per day in a suitable climate, costs around $15 in shade cloth, plus $2 in pipe fittings and wire for the frame. In the Atacama Desert, where annual rainfall averages less than a quarter inch, communities of 85 landowners each receive 100 liters of water per day from these simple panels. In Lima, Peru, the second largest desert city on Earth, 7 fog nets produce over 2,200 liters of water every single day. On the mountain of Boutmizgaida in Morocco, a fog collection system spanning about 4.5 tennis courts provides drinking water to 500 people across 5 villages who used to walk 3 hours each day to reach a well. Now, if you're thinking this only applies to people starting from scratch in the desert, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. I hear this objection all the time in comments. My house is already built. I do not live in the Atacama. We do not get fog every morning. Both things can be true, and this still works for you. Here is exactly why. The FogNet is only one tool. The same mesh condensation principle works with morning DW in any climate that drops 10 degrees or more overnight, which includes almost every state east of the Rockies from April through October. The technique simply requires that the mesh surface cools below the dew point before sunrise. In practical terms, you mount your mesh panel on a north-facing fence post or a simple frame in an open area of your yard with the collection trough running into a 5-gallon bucket. You are not capturing a flood. You are capturing the same moisture that beads up on your car windshield every morning while you are still asleep. A 4-foot by 8-foot panel, the size of a sheet of plywood, mounted at a slight angle to face the prevailing wind, can realistically collect 3 to 5 gallons of dew water on a humid morning in the American Southeast, Midwest, or Mid-Atlantic states. That is free water for garden beds, fruit trees, or topping off a rain barrel. It requires no permits, no structural changes, and no tools beyond a drill and 2 poles driven into the ground. The total material cost, including the shade cloth, PVC conduit frame, and collection trough made from a halved piece of flexible gutter, runs between $15 and $20. More importantly, this system does not need rain. It works on the same overcast mornings when your rain barrel stays empty. It works in the weeks between storms when your lawn is struggling. It works precisely when municipal water bills climb highest, during summer heat waves, when every homeowner in your neighborhood is running the same sprinklers at the same time, and the utility company is printing money. There is also a smarter placement strategy that most people miss entirely. Your fog or dew net will outperform flat ground placement by 30 to 40% if you position it at the highest point in your yard and orient it perpendicular to the wind direction. Ancient fog catchers in Chile and Morocco are sited on ridgelines and hilltops specifically because the moisture-laden air has to pass through the net rather than around it. In a backyard context, a fence corner where airflow concentrates outperforms an open panel every time. If your property has a slope, your collection net belongs at the top of it, facing the direction the morning air comes from. In most of the continental United States, that means facing northeast or east. For anyone wanting to scale this up, a $30 investment in 3 separate 4x4 panels connected to the same collection trough can supply enough water to offset a meaningful portion of landscape irrigation costs during a dry summer. At American average water rates, that is a system that pays for itself in a single season. Now I want to show you the technique I have never seen mentioned in any mainstream water conservation article, home improvement guide, or utility-sponsored rebate program. I found the core principle buried in a 1912 engineering report from Crimea and then confirmed it with data from 3 university studies and a residential case study out of Dallas, Texas. Once you see it, you will not be able to stop noticing it every day. Your air conditioner is already collecting water for you, right now, and almost certainly dumping it all down the drain. Every central air conditioning unit and most window units works by pulling warm, humid air over a cold evaporator coil. That contact cools the air below its dew point and causes the moisture in the air to condense into liquid water. That water collects in a drip pan and drains away through a condensate line, which in most American homes runs outside and simply drips onto the ground near the foundation. That water is gone. You paid the utility to make it, and it is gone. Here is what the research shows: a standard residential central air conditioner in a humid climate, the Southeast, the Gulf states, the Mid-Atlantic, anywhere with summer humidity above 50%, produces between 5 and 20 gallons of condensate water per day during peak cooling months. The chemistry of that water is remarkably pure. It is essentially distilled water condensed directly from water vapor, containing virtually no dissolved minerals, no chlorine, no fluoride. A university study in Jordan tested 120 samples of AC condensate water and found the quality met both drinking water standards and agricultural irrigation guidelines set by the Food and Agriculture Organization. A homeowner in Dallas, Texas, documented collecting over 1,000 gallons from his condensate line during a single 5-month cooling season. The University of Texas at Austin harvests tens of thousands of gallons of condensate from its campus HVAC system daily. For garden use, this water is not just free, it is arguably better than what comes out of your tap. The low mineral content makes it ideal for acid-loving plants, blueberries, azaleas, tomatoes that develop leaf burn from hard municipal water over time. It will not clog drip irrigation lines with mineral deposits, and it is already being produced by a machine you are running anyway. The modification to capture it costs almost nothing. Identify where your condensate drain line exits your house, usually a white PVC pipe running through an exterior wall near your air conditioning unit. If it currently drips onto bare ground or into a floor drain, place a clean covered container underneath it or extend the line with a few feet of flexible hose into a rain barrel or collection bucket. That is the entire modification. In most homes, this takes less than 20 minutes and requires no tools except a measuring tape and a hose clamp. If your system drains through interior plumbing instead, ask an HVAC technician to reroute the condensate drain outside during your next annual maintenance visit. The modification typically costs under $50 in labor and materials, and it will pay for itself in free garden water within the first summer. The ancient engineers who figured out that you could pull water from air did not have air conditioning units doing half the work for them. They built stone pyramids and mesh nets and carefully oriented hillside structures, all to capture the same physics that your HVAC system performs automatically every time the temperature hits 80 degrees. The only difference is that they kept the water. What I hope you take away from this video is something simpler than a technique. It is a way of seeing your property differently. Every surface that cools at night is a potential DW collector. Every humid morning is a delivery. The air around your house on a typical summer morning in the eastern half of this country contains somewhere between 1 to 3 gallons of collectible moisture per 1,000 square feet of net surface. That is not a lot, until you realize it is available every single morning, costs nothing, and requires a $15 mesh panel to capture. Your grandparents understood that water falls from the air for free. The industry that replaced that knowledge with a monthly bill is counting on you for getting it. If you have been doing something clever with rainwater, AC drainage, or DUW collection on your property, I want to hear about it in the comments. Specifically, I am curious, has anyone here already figured out that their AC unit was producing usable water? And what did you do with it? I would not be surprised if some of you were already 10 steps ahead of this video. If you want to be part of a community that keeps recovering the practical knowledge that the consumer economy buried, the kind your grandparents took for granted and we forgot to pass on, the button to join that community is right below this video. Not to support a channel, to keep access to the next piece of information that someone decided was better kept quiet.